Thank you very much. It's great to be here. I've spoken at a number of different Festival of Media events. This is the first one focused on Latin America, so thank you to Charlie and the Festival of Media team for the invitation to be here. So I'm going to talk about the rise of online video in Latin America, but I'm going to do it in the context of not just showing you what's happening in Latin America with viewership of online video, but I want to relate it to what's happening also with television and what we can learn from that. And I think you'll see it's a very, very exciting future. So I'll start with some stats. We are a numbers company, and so you can expect nothing less from me. So I'll show you what's happening with online video viewing in Latin America and relate it to the US. But I want to take the US as an illustration since it's a more developed video market. I want to take you through the way that video content has been monetized in the US, because it seems to me at least that what happened in the US is certainly likely to happen in Latin America. Then I'm going to wrap it up with some thoughts for the future. Most of the data that I'll show you is from the Comscore database. Quickly, we track, with permission, about 2 million people around the world, 1 million in the United States. We have about 250,000 in Latin America, and these people have given us permission to put our measurement software on the computers, and that sends us back, literally in real time, all of the information as to what they're doing on those devices, and then we project it up to the larger areas that we're tracking. So let me show you quickly some stats I think you'll find interesting. First of all, I want to show you the way that the internet has now developed. And interestingly, the US is no longer the center of the internet universe. So if you look on the left here of this slide, you'll see that back in 1996, the US accounted for over 2/3 of all internet users in the world. Today, that's down to 13%. Not that the growth has stopped, but the growth in other parts of the world is happening much faster. And so today, if you look at the distribution of the internet audience globally, just over 40% of internet users come from the Asia-Pac area, 26% from Europe, North America is 14%, and then Latin America accounting for about 9%. But Latin America is growing in terms of users at a faster rate than any other global region. So we're showing here at the bottom the number of users of the internet, age 15 or older, who are accessing the internet from either a home or a work computer. So this does exclude the shared use machines at internet cafes and the like. But Latin America grew 12% in the past year, and just over 130 million people, again, age 15 or older, are accessing the internet in Latin America, and you can see that that growth rate is slightly higher than what's going on in the Middle East and Africa, but well ahead of the growth rates that we see in other parts of the world. So very positive. We can expect this growth to continue as more and more people get broadband at home, and as people move from shared access machines to using either a machine at home or at work. So all of that is positive. So now I'm going to show you some stats on viewing of online video, and the 4 countries that we are measuring online video viewership in: Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Mexico. So let's take a look at what's happening there. First of all, the market is growing like crazy. This is the total number of videos viewed in billions in a month, in December of 2011. And you'll see the growth rates versus the prior year. Each of these individual countries growing in excess of 70%. So we've got a very, very vibrant, exploding market in Latin America. Now, where are these videos being viewed? Perhaps not surprisingly, because this pattern kind of repeats itself around the world. You've got Google sites, driven by YouTube, obviously, accounting for 60% or more of the total number of videos viewed, 62% in Mexico, 80% in Chile, 75% in Brazil, 63% in Argentina, and followed in 3 of these countries by Vivo, with a 6% share in Mexico, 5% in Chile, 3% in Argentina. So it's a market that, in terms of total viewership, is dominated by the Google properties. But if we turn to monetization, it's really a different perspective, and I want to show you that in this presentation this morning. So another stat that's important to realize is that the viewership really skews towards younger people still, and if the US is anything to go by, which I think it is, you can expect this age distribution to age as we go forward in time in Latin America. So this is showing the percent of all of video time spent by age group, and you can see that just about 60% of all of the time spent watching online video is coming from people aged under 34. If you add in the 35 to 44 sector, you've got about 80% of all the time spent watching video is coming from younger age segments. And that is important because it's pretty clear that online video allows advertisers a way of reaching that younger age segment in a way that might be too expensive to reach efficiently using television. And I want to show you that. Let me compare first some of the stats on how videos are viewed in the individual Latin American countries compared back to the US and then worldwide. So the reach, and this is reach measured against the total web population, so this is not, I stress, reach measured against the total population of the country, it's as a percent of online users. You've got, in a month, an average in Latin America that's marginally ahead of the US and worldwide. So as far as reach, number of people watching in a month, Latin America certainly on a par with the rest of the world. But where there's an opportunity for growth, which at the rate that we're seeing viewership grow is almost certain to occur, is if you look at videos per viewer, so video consumption, if you will. This is the total number of individual videos viewed per viewer. So we're saying on a worldwide basis about 170 different videos are viewed per viewer in a month. You'll see the US with a heavy level of viewership, 260, 250 or so videos per viewer. And then the individual Latin America countries showing levels that are below the US. But as I said, at the rate that it's growing in Latin America, I would expect that gap to narrow as we go forward. Time spent, so video engagement, if you will, also showing opportunities for growth in Latin America compared to the US and compared to worldwide. So a situation where we've already got a market that's nicely developed, but I think opportunities for explosive growth in the future. Nonetheless, while growing rapidly in Latin America, the time spent watching online video, if we compare it back to the total amount of time spent watching television, only accounts for a point or two. And as you'll see, the situation is a little different in the US, but not too different. So we've got, again, a market that's growing rapidly, but if you compare it against television, it's really still in its infancy. So what can we learn from what's happened in the US and apply it to Latin America? So let me take you through some stats. First of all, let me show you how big the online advertising market is in the United States. This is data from the IAB. $32 billion spent online advertising, search, display, video, et cetera, up 22% versus a year ago. And that level is approaching a half of all of the total money spent on television advertising. Another impressive stat, the 22% growth is 10 times faster than the growth in all paid media in the United States. So a very, very already strong, but still fast-growing advertising market. Now, if you look at the US in terms of time spent, and I think these are stats that the media often doesn't communicate clearly, because I think a lot of what the media says leads you to believe that total time spent watching television is somehow falling off a cliff, and it's really not true. Yes, it's fragmenting, so viewership is occurring across more channels, but the total amount of time spent watching television, so these are US numbers, you can see is pretty much flat in the US. But online video viewership in the US is growing at a rapid clip. It's growing at 74%. Nonetheless, if you put it all together in the box, your video is now equal to about 5% of the total time spent watching television. But I think that that number really hides the opportunity that video represents to an advertiser, and that's where I'm heading. Now, if we shift to online video advertising, and again, in the US, it's just under $2 billion, but it's growing at 40%. And it's equivalent now to about 6% of all online ad spending. So we can expect, I think it's almost inevitable, that online video will continue to attract more and more ad dollars as we go forward in time. If we look at Latin America and look at some of the same stats, the total ad market is growing at about, online ad market is growing about twice the rate that the US is growing. So it's growing at 40%, hit at $2.5 billion, and that's growing 3.5 times faster than all media. So in Latin America, we have an online ad market that's already there, and it's growing at a very, very rapid clip, growing faster than all media, which pretty much says that there's a shift of ad spending from more traditional media to the internet. But I think, as you'll see, that shift really, to date, is not coming so much from television as it is from other media, and print, I think, is the one that's really gotten hit by it. Okay, now, so why are people watching videos online? And so we ran a survey and asked our panel of people that we track, why did you watch originally scripted content? So here we're asking about longer form content, so a 30-minute television show that's being run on the internet. And what we found is that they're not watching it to avoid the ads, which is good news for the content owners. They're watching it because of convenience and time shifting. So they're wanting to watch it on their own schedule. And the important implication of that is that online video viewership of long-form content is an incremental audience to what's viewing on television. So it's not cannibalizing the viewership. You wouldn't have had these viewers if you're the content owner, if not for the internet. Yes, they could have used a video recorder, but you can fast forward through the ads with a video recorder, which the content owners aren't too happy about. So given their druthers, the content owners would definitely much prefer to have that time-shifted viewing of their content occur on the internet. So that's good, right? That's really positive for the monetization of videos online. Second question is, well, how many ads can you run on this content? So we ran another survey, and we were asking questions like, how much advertising is so negligible that it would not interfere at all with your viewing experience? How much advertising is too long, would interfere with your viewing experience? And then we kind of try to pinpoint what the optimum level of advertising is that consumers would be willing to take in return for watching that content free on the internet. And it's pretty clear that if you ask people, would you prefer to watch it, this content, and pay something with no advertising versus would you like to watch it free with some advertising, 95% of people will pick the latter. And what they're saying in this survey is that they are open to about 6.5 minutes of ads per TV hour. So that's an ad load of somewhere around 11%, which today is probably about a half of the ad load, certainly in the US, that television carries, because it's carrying about 20% of all of the time spent watching TV is ads. So we've got, I think, two really important positives for online video. It's an incremental audience, and you can monetize it with advertising. So what we can learn from the US is really interesting, and I think you'll find this to be fascinating. This is from a presentation that David Poltrak, who's the Chief Research Officer of CBS, did 3 years ago, where he was trying to outline scenarios of how online video monetization would occur from CBS's perspective. So this slide shows, at that point in time, in 2009, how CBS was monetizing content. So they could run it live. Some people watch it live. There was a DVR playback that was occurring, and then there was online streaming. And what David was trying to do in this slide was to kind of come up with an ad value metric by multiplying the number of ads by the audience that's retained. Okay, so if you say 100% is watching the show and then the ad break comes on, what he's saying here is that on average, they're losing 5% of the audience. That's the 0.95. So if you multiply the number of ads by the audience retention, you come up with an interesting metric of ad value. So live viewing of TV and ads has the highest ad value back then, followed by the DVR playback, and the 0.44 there means that CBS believed that they were losing about a half of the audience on playback on a DVR as they were fast forwarding through the ads. So then the ad value with 10 minutes of ads, which is 20 ads times a 0.44, you get the 8.8. And then online streaming, they were only running 2 minutes of ads. So that's 4 30-second ads. And they were monetizing, they were keeping 100% of the audience. So the ad value there comes out to 4. So that's the metric. I hope that's clear, because now I want to show you the scenarios that CBS outlined for what might happen going forward. So the first scenario is where they run more ads. So they run 9 ads with a value in terms of pricing it equivalent to television live, and they get an ad value of 9. On the other hand, they could run 4 minutes of ads, which is 8 ads, and now maybe get a premium. So the 1.2 represents a premium of 20% relative to television. And the belief was that the improved targeting that's possible online, coupled with a higher engagement, and work that we've done at Comscore, I think supports this, you can get a higher persuasion level with an online video ad than if that ad was running on television. And so what David was outlining was the possibility that they could monetize that ad at a 20% premium to live television. That gives them an ad value of 9.6. Another scenario, slightly fewer ads, 3.5 minutes of ads, which is 7 ads, but with a higher monetization, 40% premium to TV, and that'll give them an ad value of 9. And then he laid out a couple of more aggressive scenarios. Now, scenario 4 says, okay, we're going to run 13 ads, so that's an ad load of about 10%, but we're going to get a 50% premium. And so the ad value now, 19.5, is on a par with live television. Another scenario pushes it up even more, 5 minutes of ads, but maybe a premium of twice the rate of live television would push it up to an ad value of 20. So, knowing that I was going to come and speak at this event, I called David and asked him what happened. And the answer was pretty much turned out to be what we thought. I said, both in terms of the number of ads that you're running and the monetization, and the answer was yes. And so they are running now, and this is not just CBS, but if you look at all the long-form content, the monetization levels in terms of ad loads as a percentage are running anywhere between 10 to 15%. And the premiums that are being obtained vary somewhat according to what type of content it is, but it is certainly possible to push the CPMs for online video to levels that are double what you can get with live television. And so that's a really terrific scenario, especially when you look at it and say that this is an incremental audience. We just finished a study, incidentally, with NBC of viewing of the Olympics across 3 screens. So we were tracking television, online video, and smartphones. And it's pretty clear that the audience that you get on these devices, other than television, are incremental. And in fact, the people that are watching that content during the Olympics live in the afternoon or morning actually had a greater likelihood of then also watching television on a time-delayed basis in the evening. So the news is really, I think, really positive. And I think this scenario, yes, this is what happened. What I just covered is what happened in the US. But in my discussions with people in the industry in Latin America, I'm not getting any pushback as to why this scenario couldn't evolve in Latin America as well. And so I think it's a really, really positive future for the industry, okay? So I'm going to wrap up with the value in all of this for the advertiser. So what I've covered is the benefits for the publisher and the content owner. But what's in it for the advertiser? Well, something really interesting in it for the advertiser, and it goes back to the demographics, the younger demos that I showed that you can reach with online video. Now, in television, if you were to plot out the reach against the cost of getting that reach, and we ran these data off of one of the TV and internet viewing databases that we maintain for the same households. I'll come to the internet in a second. But what you get is a curve that starts to flatten out where it becomes really expensive to push that reach up higher. All right, and so you can see here that as you're trying to build that reach, that the cost starts to get really expensive because that curve isn't bumping up. And effective reach here, let's say, is defined as 4 or more exposures. So television, for all of its power, does have a limit where it becomes very expensive to get the reach to go beyond a certain point. So we ran a simulation with these databases, and we moved some of the ad impressions from TV to the internet, targeted to the younger households that you can reach with online video to see what would happen. And as we had hoped, it's a really positive situation. So the way to read this is the top line, TV only, is a media plan that only has TV. And then we go down to where we're taking 10% of those GRPs and we're putting them, or the 10% of the cost, putting it against online, and then looking at what that combined plan achieves. And in essence, what it does is it boosts the reach pretty dramatically, certainly boosts the effective reach dramatically, which is saying that if you overlay a video campaign on top of television, you will be able to reach that younger age segment that's very expensive to reach efficiently and effectively with television, and you can do it in a pretty powerful manner with online. So I think if you put it all together, online video is going to coexist really well with television, and the combination of the two is a really powerful way to market for it from an advertiser perspective. So quickly, my last slide, some summary thoughts. Online video viewing in Latin America is surging. It's pretty clear from all of the stats that we've seen. And what can we learn from the US? First, that online video viewing of TV content is incremental to TV, so it's an additional audience that you can monetize. Don't need to think so much about cannibalization at this point. Consumers will accept ad loads on originally scripted content online of 10% or more. That's really good news, and I think that will probably be pushed up even more as time goes by. Premium pricing is possible for video ads, rates that are higher than the CPMs that television is getting because of the better targeting and the higher engagement levels. So bottom line, online video advertising can add effective reach to a TV campaign and help you reach those younger age segments that you can't reach as efficiently with television. So those were the comments I wanted to pass along. I hope this is useful for you, and I hope this gets you enthused about the future potential of online video viewing in Latin America. Thank you very much.